Have you ever wondered how Sigma males, those lone wolves of society, handle the secret tests that women put them through? Most men don't even realize these tests are happening. They think it's just conversation, a joke, or a random emotional swing. But a Sigma? He sees through the pattern instantly. He reads energy, not words. He detects motive, not movement. And when a woman subconsciously tests him, to measure his confidence, his patience, or his power, he doesn't flinch. Because the Sigma male lives by one rule. If you're trying to test me, you've already lost me. He's not playing to win her approval, he's observing to understand her intent. And that quiet awareness is exactly what makes him unpredictable, untouchable, and, to some women, terrifying. So in this video, we're diving deep into the 7 ways women secretly test Sigma males. And how these silent, self-contained men respond with an almost surgical calm that leaves everyone guessing. How does he stay so unshakable? Let's begin. Number 1, the emotional provocation test. The first and most common test a woman will give a Sigma male is the emotional provocation test. It doesn't come with warning signs. It doesn't start with arguments or insults. It starts small, a teasing comment, a sarcastic remark, or a subtle comparison meant to trigger something inside you. It's not cruelty. It's instinct. Because on a primal level, women test emotion the same way nature tests strength. They want to know, can this man handle chaos without collapsing? Can he stay centered when the energy in the room shifts? Most men fail right here. They react too fast. They defend, argue, explain, or try to prove they're unaffected, not realizing that every reaction exposes them further. But the Sigma? He doesn't play that game. He recognizes the test the moment it begins, not with suspicion, but with awareness. He hears the tone change. He sees the slight spark in her eyes. And instead of meeting fire with fire, he lets silence do the talking. His calmness isn't coldness, it's mastery. He understands that emotion is energy, and whoever controls it, controls the dynamic. So when she teases, mocks, or subtly provokes, he doesn't give her the satisfaction of seeing his energy shift. His pulse stays steady. His breathing remains slow. And behind that unreadable face, his mind is still, detached, analytical, patient. To her, it's unsettling. She's used to men reacting, trying to one-up her, trying to impress, or getting defensive. But this man doesn't do any of that. He listens like he's studying a new language. He watches her like she's revealing a map she didn't mean to show. And when she expects emotion, anger, jealousy, validation, what she gets instead is silence. That silence changes everything. Because women don't consciously plan these moments, they feel them. It's the subconscious asking, is he strong enough to lead himself? When he passes the test, something inside her shifts. Respect replaces curiosity. Attraction deepens into fascination. And suddenly, the power dynamic flips. Now she's the one wondering, what is he thinking? Why doesn't he react like the rest? That's the Sigma advantage. He's not detached because he doesn't care, he's detached because he refuses to be controlled by emotional gravity. He doesn't lose his center to win approval. He doesn't perform for validation. He stays grounded in his own stillness, and that, to a woman, is the most magnetic energy of all. Because deep down, every woman knows. The man who controls his emotions, controls the room. And when she realizes she can't shake him, she stops testing him, and starts respecting him. Number 2. The attention withdrawal test. At some point, every woman, consciously or not, will pull away. The tone of her messages will shift. Her replies will take longer. She'll stop initiating. Maybe she'll even vanish into a cloud of polite distance, the kind that says, I'm busy, but feels like a silent dare. That moment is not random. It's the attention withdrawal test. A subconscious experiment to measure how much control she has over your emotional world. Most men fail instantly. They panic. They start sending double texts, over-explaining, calling late at night, trying to repair what they imagine is broken. They think the connection is slipping, when in reality, they're the ones slipping. Because attention, to a woman, isn't just affection, it's information. She studies how you respond when her attention fades. Does your confidence fade with it? Do you start chasing, compensating, or performing for reassurance? That's when she learns who you really are. But a Sigma male? He reacts differently. When attention fades, he doesn't chase, he recalibrates. He doesn't take it personally. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't assume rejection. He simply steps back, mirrors her distance, and redirects his focus inward, back into his purpose, his goals, his world. That's what separates him from the crowd. Where most men spiral into anxiety, the Sigma returns to alignment. He understands that attention is currency, and whoever spends it recklessly ends up emotionally bankrupt. He knows that energy follows focus. And focus is the foundation of power. So when a woman tests him by withdrawing hers, he does the same, not to play games, but to preserve balance. He lets her absence create space instead of confusion. He allows silence to become his statement. And that silence says everything. Because suddenly, she realizes something unsettling. She doesn't have control. She can't manipulate his focus. She can't use distance as bait because he doesn't bite. Instead of chasing her attention, he becomes even more composed, even more self-contained. He goes quiet, and in that quiet, something happens. Her mind begins to race. Did I lose his interest? Was I not enough? Why didn't he react like everyone else? That curiosity turns into tension. That tension turns into attraction. Because the Sigma male's indifference isn't arrogance, it's sovereignty. He owns his attention. He doesn't trade it for crumbs of validation. To her, it feels mysterious. To him, it's just emotional discipline. The Sigma knows that love, attraction, connection, all of it, are strongest when both people are centered. And he refuses to let his peace depend on someone else's inconsistency. That's why this test always backfires on her. She wanted to see if he'd chase, instead, she ends up chasing his calm. She wanted to measure his attachment, instead, she discovers his control. And that's when she realizes the truth. He's not withdrawing out of pride. He's just too focused to play emotional hide-and-seek. To the Sigma, peace is priceless. And he'll never exchange it for attention, no matter how beautiful the face trying to pull him off course. Because for him, silence isn't punishment. It's proof of self-respect. And that's what makes him untouchable. Number 3. The respect boundary test. Every woman, especially one with confidence and allure, will eventually push against a man's boundaries. Not necessarily out of malice, but instinct. She wants to feel his edge. It's an unspoken game, a subconscious dance between feminine curiosity and masculine sovereignty. She'll interrupt you mid-sentence. She'll playfully challenge your opinion. She'll throw a subtle insult, disguised as a joke, just to see how you'll react. Because in her world, most men crumble when confronted. They either laugh it off to maintain her approval, or lash out to prove dominance. But the Sigma? He does neither. He doesn't explain. He doesn't defend. He doesn't try to make her understand his worth, because he already knows it. When a woman crosses that invisible line, he doesn't raise his voice or engage in verbal battles. He simply withdraws his presence, and that silence is louder than any outburst could ever be. To her, it's unsettling. Because most men need validation from her attention. But he doesn't. His boundaries aren't a performance, they're a reflection of his internal law, a code written in solitude, refined by rejection, and enforced through quiet power. He won't entertain disrespect, not because he's fragile, but because he's sovereign. He's not trying to teach her a lesson, he's reminding himself of one. Never trade self-respect for temporary connection. And when she sees that, something changes. Her playful defiance turns into curiosity. Her teasing gaze shifts into quiet respect. Because she realizes this man can't be guilt-tripped, seduced, or manipulated into breaking his own code. He's not chasing comfort, he's maintaining order. In a world where most men bend to avoid loneliness, the Sigma stands alone, not out of arrogance, but necessity. His energy says, I will not raise my tone, but I will remove my presence. I don't need to be understood, I need to be respected. And that's when she finally sees him for what he truly is. A man who commands respect without ever asking for it. Because real power isn't in domination or control. It's in restraint. And restraint is the Sigma's most dangerous weapon. Number 4. The jealousy trigger test. This one is ancient, older than words, older than the games people play. It's the jealousy trigger test, the quiet art of emotional warfare that women use instinctively. She doesn't announce it. She doesn't plan it. But one day, she'll casually mention another man. An ex who still checks in. A coworker who just gets her. A stranger who had such confidence. The tone seems harmless, but the intention is surgical. She's not trying to hurt you. She's trying to see if you'll bleed. Because jealousy reveals what confidence hides. Most men crumble under it. Their voices tighten, their posture shifts, their calm evaporates. They start competing with a ghost, trying to win a battle that never existed. But the Sigma? He's different. He doesn't compete. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't need to prove his worth because he knows he is the standard. When she drops another man's name, he doesn't react. No frown, no tension, no insecurity. Maybe a faint smirk. Maybe a calm, that's cool. Or sometimes, silence. A silence that feels heavier than anger. Because the Sigma understands something deeper. Jealousy isn't passion, it's possession. And possession is weakness disguised as love. So while others spiral, he remains still. And that stillness unnerves her. Because she suddenly realizes he's not afraid to lose her. He was never trying to own her. That's when the test turns inward. She starts questioning herself. Why doesn't he react? Does he even care? What would it take to break his calm? And that's when the power shifts. The Sigma doesn't chase emotion, he commands it. His composure becomes magnetic, his silence intoxicating. She starts chasing the reaction she'll never get. Because deep down, every woman knows. The man who cannot be provoked, cannot be controlled. And in that quiet moment, she understands the truth. A man who doesn't react to jealousy is a man no one can replace. Number 5. The silence test. It always happens when things seem steady, when the rhythm feels natural, the connection effortless. Then, it stops. The messages slow down. The calls fade out. The warmth turns into static. And suddenly, there's nothing but silence. Not because she's gone, but because she's testing something deeper. She wants to see what kind of man exists when she's no longer feeding him energy. When the attention dries up, does he collapse? Does he reach for her, or for himself? This is the silence test, the most subtle, yet the most revealing. Most men panic. They start overthinking every second of stillness, reading old texts, rewriting scenarios in their heads. They become slaves to uncertainty. Because silence to them is a threat, a void they're desperate to fill. But not the Sigma. When she goes silent, he doesn't chase the echo. He lets it ring. He welcomes it like an old friend. Because the Sigma knows something most men never learn. Silence reveals the truth that words conceal. He doesn't text to check in. He doesn't double message to clarify. He doesn't spiral into questions like, did I do something wrong? No. He sits in the quiet like a monk in meditation. He uses the stillness as data, a diagnostic of intention. If she's genuine, she'll return. If she's testing, she'll notice he doesn't move. And if she's lost, she'll realize he won't follow. Because to the Sigma, silence is not punishment, it's purification. It cleans the space between two souls and exposes who needs who more. He doesn't fill the void, he becomes it. He becomes the silence she created, and that's what terrifies her. Because when she finally returns, expecting to find him waiting, she finds him exactly where he was before, calm, centered, unshaken. The same tone. The same energy. The same stillness that once intrigued her, now unnerves her. She expected longing. She finds neutrality. She expected questions. She finds peace. And that's when it hits her, he didn't need her presence to maintain his power. He is the power. The Sigma's silence is not absence. It's a mirror. It reflects her own insecurity, her own dependency, her own need for control. Because when you remove sound from a connection, all that's left is truth. And the truth is, he doesn't chase closure. He is the closure. His stillness says everything words never could. To her, it feels supernatural, like she stepped into the gravity field of a man who no longer responds to emotional bait. The kind of man who's learned that silence is the highest form of communication. Because silence doesn't beg. It doesn't explain. It doesn't perform. It simply waits. And in that waiting, she realizes something haunting. That the more she withdraws to test him, the deeper she falls into his quiet orbit. The Sigma doesn't just survive silence. He weaponizes it. He turns nothingness into presence. And in a world addicted to noise, that's terrifying. Number 6. The temptation test. Sometimes, a woman will test a man's discipline. Not directly, but through subtle temptation. It could be physical. It could be emotional. Either way, she's checking your control. A Sigma male's power lies in his restraint. He knows when to act, and when to walk away. He's not seduced by validation or aesthetics. He's drawn to energy, to authenticity. So when she flirts to measure his self-control, and he doesn't bite, it leaves her both frustrated and fascinated. Because she realizes his desire is selective, not reactive. He's not starving for attention, he's choosing his moments. That's what separates the Sigma from the average man. He doesn't prove his masculinity through indulgence, but through mastery. And to a woman, that's terrifying. Because she can't predict it, and she can't control it. Number 7. The vulnerability test. This is the final test, the deepest one. When a woman truly starts to care, she'll test your emotional depth. Not by asking, but by revealing. She'll share something personal, a wound, a fear, a regret, and she'll watch how you respond. Most men either shut down or oversympathize. But the Sigma listens, fully present, completely grounded. He doesn't rush to fix her. He doesn't pity her. He just sees her, without judgment. And that's where the test ends. Because she feels safe, but not coddled. Understood, but not owned. Sigma males don't weaponize vulnerability, they honor it quietly. It's that calm presence. The way he can hold space without losing his center. That makes women realize they're dealing with something rare. Not a savior. Not a victim. But a man who mastered himself long before anyone else tried to understand him. Number 8. The control test. At some point, every woman, consciously or not, will test how much control she truly has over a man's world. It doesn't come as a demand. It comes as subtle influence. A suggestion here. A correction there. A gentle nudge to see if he'll bend, if she can steer his choices, his focus, his identity. Most men don't even notice it happening. They start adjusting themselves, their words, their tone, their routines, in small, invisible ways. Until one day, they wake up strangers to their own reflection. But the Sigma? He feels the shift instantly. Because control is energy, and he reads energy like others read facial expressions. The moment someone tries to direct his current, he feels the drag in the flow of his own mind. And that's when he stops. Not with anger. Not with argument. But with silence, the kind that feels like a locked door. He won't confront her, he'll simply disengage. The conversation shortens. The availability fades. The warmth dims. Not as punishment, but as a reset, a reminder of where power truly resides. The Sigma knows that once a man gives up control of his focus, he's already surrendered the throne. And he refuses to let anyone, no matter how beautiful, intelligent, or magnetic, sit in that seat. When she notices her influence doesn't move him, something changes. Her attempts to test his submission turn into fascination. Her curiosity sharpens into desire. Because she's not used to being stopped. And in that invisible tug of war, she realizes. She's not dealing with a man who resists control. She's dealing with a man who commands himself. That kind of self-possession is rare. Unsettling. Almost dangerous. Because in a world where everyone wants to be followed, the Sigma cannot be led. Not through guilt. Not through affection. Not through silence. His decisions come from a place beyond approval, from a fortress built within. So when a woman tests for control and finds none, she doesn't just feel powerless. She feels exposed. Because she's standing before a man who doesn't need her compliance, her validation, or her permission to remain unshaken. A man who lives by one unspoken law. If you can't control me, you can trust me. And that paradox, that calm, unwavering dominance, is what makes the Sigma both irresistible and untouchable. Final thoughts. The truth is, women don't test Sigma males to hurt them. They test them because they need to know if the energy is real. In a world full of pretenders. Men who talk confidence but crumble under pressure. The Sigma stands as proof that silence can be louder than any performance. He doesn't chase love. He doesn't fear loss. He moves with the quiet certainty of a man who knows who he is. And that's why the tests don't shake him, they reveal him. Every provocation, every withdrawal, every silence is just another chance for him to practice stillness. Because while the world reacts, the Sigma remains. He doesn't pass the tests by playing games. He passes because he's not playing at all. So if you find yourself relating to this energy, if you felt misunderstood, misread, or labeled cold, when you were really just protecting your peace, then understand this. You're not broken. You're just Sigma. And the world isn't ready for men who can't be controlled. So embrace your solitude. Honor your focus. And never explain your silence. Because a Sigma male doesn't speak to be understood. He speaks when it's necessary. And that's why his presence will always be louder than their noise.